name is Dustin Randall Weaver. I was born on December 30th, 1993. In 2011 or so, I proposed that I had a cure for cancer to Anonymous on 4chan/b/random. I need this message delivered to Keith Alexander physically in order to ensure that the message is received. There was probable cause for NSA to be there due to the public request to be hacked. This proves NSA was there. While NSA was there, I made a logicality where I claimed I was drinking underage. If they did not arrest me and the Anonymous that were present for hacking immediately at that moment, I would to be under the assumption that I and the Anonymous that followed me on my mission as subordinates and equals in every real sense were to be undercover. I detailed I had information regarding to an important figure, of which I voluntarily blocked from my memory so as not to inadvertently reveal the information that was relayed to me by informants. I understand it's very difficult to look past me, or that is to say my diagnoses of schizophrenia, whether that's known or not. I can prove that it was a frame to make me look psychotic for a killing in Shawnee, Oklahoma, of a snitch who snitched out 2 towns. There was no monetization. I instructed my team to inform him not to do anything with the money, as it would be an immediate sign that it was him who snitched out the towns. He went in, sold drugs, and ended up being killed. It's not our fault, and it was an unreasonable action past what we did to inform him of the immediate danger. We could not compromise our mission. In 2018, I posed as a terroristic threat online as a cryptologist. Now that the logicality is there for a terrorist branding, as well as the logicality as for the lie I agreed upon that I knew where a nuclear silo was for silencing of my past, you can see that this situation is very verifiable, provable in at least a hypothetical sense. I was silenced up until basically 2024 with suggestions of my past, saying the word tumultuous and hinting at further past as a direct threat. While I did not suffer in a tumultuous way, I just knew that's what they were implying, that if I were to go back further in the past and remember, I would be under direct threat. The problem isn't that there's no verifiable reason for him to silence me. It's that the threats continued past his presidency, meaning that he had no idea I was undercover. He had no idea that that I was secretly on a mission that I forgot about on purpose to essentially see if he were to abuse me. Seeing as how the threats continued, this means that the team that were on me, the government workers, were instructed to continue to threaten me to not remember my past. I had to essentially form militia contacts via a cipher training ground for militia. You've probably never heard of it. Of course not. It's a government thing. It's a militia thing. There's no online proof, essentially. I can prove I am a cryptologist, self-trained. I can prove that Donald Trump had reason to silence me. Yet, 6 years of silencing of a general sense and a broad sense of the past, of which, even though the information he thought that he was silencing was around 2007 or so, they suggested years of 2006 to about 2008 to be of impermissible remembrance. I don't know how to make it any more clear. NSA had probable cause in 2011. I told them if they didn't arrest me and let anonymous, we were under the presumption we were to go undercover with the notion of humanitarian purposes, such as curing cancer. I can only imagine that this would have taken a good turn. I can prove schizophrenia was a psychosis framing in the sense that I played the part of a abusable victim. They told me that, well, of course, I'll explain how it's done. First off, you have to make the notion of the ability to cause a twitch in one's arm, right? Now, what I did was I played abusable. I made it to terms that were understood that if a certain sound were played, it would cause a twitch in my arm. This I never revealed to a psychiatrist, however, the notion that I knew these entities that could cause this, as we, us, ha, no one, it. 13 letters. Schizophrenia is 13 letters. This was in 2018. I published this on 4chan at about 2020, 2021. In 2019, I was diagnosed with psychosis, schizophrenia, delusions. Even though my delusions, on part, were that NSA could, due to the Patriot Act, hack any computer they want if you're considered a terroristic threat. I didn't tell them of my parts in cryptology. I didn't tell them of anything of the sort. Yet it was a delusion. I believed in nanoparticles entering the blood-brain barrier, essentially. Entering the brain. Delusion. Egocentric. I don't know what I'm talking about. Furthermore, in 2019, at least 2 individuals were raped in jail. A person who went by Pope and an officer, actually. I saw the officer leave the room unmonitored in the early morning, sleeping with one eye open. I asked him if he was alright. He strided quickly out of the cell, as if no one knew he was in there, yet I heard his cries of pain as he was raped. Now, if I'm to consider that these auditory events are hallucinatory, then why is it that, even if it was fake, someone asked me in a jail cell, hey, do you like puddle of mud? Psycho, schizophrenic psycho. You know what that means? It means they're trying to get me off on charges by calling me schizophrenic, but it's more complicated than that. Not only do I get off on charges due to schizophrenia, it also frames me for a murder. Furthermore, I actually didn't need any of that. That was in self-defense. It's quite complicated. However, it is a dire situation that this reaches Keith Alexander. The most prominent detail about myself would be the cure for cancer, and that I would technically be a blacklisted, or that is to say, blacked out information agent. If at all. It's very possible they didn't want any type of proof. I requested a physical copy and no internet or computerized information on my legitimacy as an agent. I requested the piece of paper to be hidden quite well within a wall, immune to any detection techniques. I suppose the most straightforward path would be to establish physical contact with Keith Alexander and inform him I was successful in my mission. It was a fair game. He needs to be arrested, Donald Trump. I don't know how to make this any more clear. If this is ignored, if it's too long for you, if you think the pauses in my sentencing is too long to consider it as valid, as coherent words, maybe you need to reestablish the validity of the situation. 2011 probable cause cure for cancer, NSA Anonymous. You've never heard of a job where an agent forgets information. You've never heard of a job where an agent forgets they're undercover. You don't know the first goddamn thing about undercover agents. You don't know the first goddamn thing about validity if you're telling me NSA didn't have probable cause to be at a place to which I requested to be publicly hacked. Or I requested publicly to be hacked. You know, while I appreciate your friendship, and I know my agents have to remain cold or else we risk being taken out, I need you to understand something. I can confirm I was the individual who publicly requested to be hacked to deliver a speech on how to cure cancer. I can prove that, which means I can prove NSA was there, which means I can prove subjectively that I, myself, and anyone around objectively can prove of the undercover request. They look the other way as well. In fact, they look the other way past that point. The point is that I can prove